Good afternoon and welcome back to my channel. So today we want to start our Microsoft Word beginner series, and we're going to cover how to create a professional letter in Word. So as you can see here, we have 10 different steps that we're going to go through to have a proper professional letter, so that when you're doing your application letters, any form of business letter within your organization that you need to send out to staff, you have the right criteria in knowing how to prepare that letter, right? So as you can see here, we'll look at margins, setting the right fonts, line spacing, aligning the text correctly, inserting the date, the address, putting your subject line, the salutation, formatting your paragraph properly, and then adding your closing, right? So I already have a letter here prepared that we're going to use, a sample letter that we're going to use for demonstration, right? Okay, so the first thing on our list, of course, as you see here, that we're going to look at is to set the proper margin. Most of these we will go through very quickly. They don't take a lot, but it's just to be aware of them so that you know how to set it when you're trying to do your professional letters, right? So for business letters, always remember that your margin should be 1 inch all around. So your margin should be one for top, bottom, left, and right. So how you can do that now, you can go to page layout and you will see margin. You click that and then it will be on normal, right? Normal as it says normal as the normal formatting, which is the 1 inch all around. You notice one, top, bottom, left, and right. But there are some other ones that you can select as well that are different. Or if it's not on normal, or if you want to customize your margin, this is just for knowledge purposes, but not necessarily for this specific letter. You can click custom margin and you can set your margin, but in this case we're only using one around. If you notice, it's already set there, and you would click OK and it will make the necessary adjustment around, right? Simple and easy, right? So that's for margin. So let's mark that one off. So let's go into the fonts now, right? Okay, so for fonts now, here where we have under home and right here in fonts, we have the fonts and the size. So there are three main professional fonts that are used in business letters. One is Arial, one is Times New Roman, and the other one is Calibri. So for Arial and Times New Romans, it is recommended to use size 12. For Calibri, however, right, let me select this. For Calibri, however, let me find that, which is my favorite of the three, it should be in font size 11, right? So that's the norm if you're choosing Calibri as your chosen font, right? So just keep that in mind. So we did that, right? Easy, right? And we come here now, strike that off. So now we have set line spacing. Okay, so for line spacing, this is an interesting one. So say for instance here, let me show you different ways to do this. If I highlight my paragraph here, by the way, line spacing should be single space, which is 1.0 inches between each line. So if I select that and I can click right click and paragraph, then right here you will see spacing. I already have mine in single spacing, but you can choose other things for other letters, of course, but I'm just showing you the options that are there. But in this case, you're supposed to put single spacing and click OK. You can also choose that by staying on the home where the paragraph is and clicking here, and it will also bring it up. And you can see if whatever your line spacing in, just ensure it's in single line spacing, right? So let's click that one off our list. Let's mark that one off, and then now we're going to do align text. This one is probably the easiest one. So for aligning text, as we know, we cannot have our text like this. No. Unprofessional, unprofessional. This is not the recommended one, even though it looks like it's left aligned, but it's not. But the recommended alignment is left alignment, right? That is the standard, that is the more professional, because naturally we read from left to right, not from center to left or center to right or vice versa. We read from left to right, so that's a professional way to do it. So keep that in mind as well. So let's get that one off the list. And inserting the date, easy as well. So the date, you'll be probably wondering where the date should go. So the date should always go after your address, which would form your letterhead. So say for instance, this was on a letterhead. I have my letterhead up there, so and everything there was right after your letterhead or your address and everything that gives your information at the top. You should have one space between. If you notice here, one space down, and you put your date. So keep in mind your date should be in this format. It's best recommended for a professional letter. So you'd have the month, the day, the year. Please to avoid something like this. Say for instance, the 405.226, right? Different areas internationally have different formats for date. So for this now, how would you know for real which one is the date or the month? You understand? So it can cause complication and misunderstanding with the date. So it's best to write out the date like this. So it's more professional and it makes everything clearer, right? So we mark off date right there. Now we're going to do the recipient address. So in this case, it's the same thing for the address. The recipient address should be one space in between. So you notice I have the address here, and between it and the date, there's just one space. And that's just basically it. So it's nothing much to these, to the date and the address. Is just to know that the spacing should be single, just like we did initially in formatting line spacing, that is. Just like we did initially with the line spacing, right? So let's mark that one off. So we're going to add the subject now. So here we have the subject. So you'll do it like this. You'll have subject and put a simple, brief, descriptive line, nothing probably too long like a paragraph. But this is simple and precise to the point. Request for employment verification. And you can make emphasis on it by bolding it as well. You don't have to, but bolding it is a nice way to, to show what the letter is really about. Right, so let's take this subject off our list and add salutation. All right, so here for salutation, which is interesting, here I have a comma on this, right? And this is being used traditionally. People still use it up to now, but it's a more traditional way of doing things. For a professional letter, however, it's recommended to use a colon. If you use a comma, it's not wrong, but as I said, it's more traditional, and it seems like you're not really like up to speed with the more modern and formal way of doing a letter. So it's best to use a colon, right? So another thing for salutation is that try to know the person's name, especially when you're doing an application letter. Call before, ask, what's the name? Could I get the name of your so-and-so manager? I'm trying to address a letter to him or her, XYZ, so that they can get the name. It feels more formal. The person feels better when you address them by name, rather than you saying, dear sir / madam, which is a traditional way of doing it, by the way. If you don't know the person name, the more formal and professional and modern way in doing it is to use their title or probably like the company name followed by team. So for example, you would say dear marketing manager or dear hiring manager, something like that. Dear XYZ company team, something to that effect, than just saying dear sir / madam. That's a more traditional way of doing, but the professional, more modern way is to first try and find the person's name. They really like when you address them by their name. If not, then you use their title, department, company, or so forth to say their XYZ team, their marketing manager, as I said before, or hiring manager, right? So let's try that one off. And formatting is simple. For formatting, all we do, let's say we highlight this, we right click, paragraph, we just want to check our indents. So in this case, because my indent is off, it's not showing nothing in here. So your left and right indent should be 0. So you can enter the 0. And your special should be none. Right? So if you click this, it will make the necessary adjustment. After you click OK, it will do the necessary adjustment. Or you can come right here in paragraph and you can select here. And if you notice, if you go in here and it shows the 0 and everything, you can adjust it and click OK. Right? Let's get this one off our list now. So we're going to take our format paragraph properly. And the final one now, the closing, which maybe seems simple, but it's very interesting. So for closing, if you notice here, I have yours sincerely. And the reason why I have yours sincerely is because I have the person's name. So it's recommended that if you know the person's name or have the person's name in the letter rather than addressing them by a title or so, you use your sincerely. It feels more sincere because you know the person name, not know them personally, but you know their name, so it feels more sincere and formal. And then you'll put your signature and you'll put your name below that. If you don't have the person's name, you would more use something like yours faithfully, or faithfully yours. Some people say yours faithfully, some people say faithfully yours. But I prefer yours faithfully or faithfully, right? And that's a good way to close your letter. And yeah, there we go. We are at number 10. And we strike that off and we have completed the 10 steps in knowing how to do a professional letter. So hope you learned something today. Comment, like, share. Let me know if you want me to do any other video in words. But I'll be doing other videos, of course, in Word because this is a series. So my next video will be how to create a resume in Word. So you don't want to miss that. So stay tuned and subscribe. Click the notification bell. And I'll see you next time.